Welcome, welcome to my lovely IHP community and the 5D collective. So I had some stuff planned, but since I won't be getting to it today, we're going to do a gist of it, and then we'll get through the episodes in the next couple of days and the week. But our topic is still centered around the lovely theme of self-empowered feminine and masculines who are growing intimate and passionate relationships, and they're expanding each other, as well as our lovely humanity, finding out of how to get beyond the trickery of that mind with ego narratives and self. And that's the two topics that will be covered throughout the week. But in the meantime, right now, what I'm going to share is a small bit of what came through. And again, if you're new, mindfully living and loving people, or 5D mystics, and or one and the same, are responsible, reflective, and emotionally and mentally aware individuals who know how to self-regulate in a healthy way. That means to be in our non-reactive ventral vagal state, and if we're still working on it, that's okay, but we basically do not have any of those orphaned parts that we're projecting. And what's beautiful, I didn't even know this because I catch up with the astrology, but we had a major event yesterday with love in the forefront, and there's a lovely linear planets, something like that going on, although they're not like one straight line, okay? And so when you have empowered masculines and feminines, as I shared in a short, behind every great woman, there's a great man. Behind every great man, there's a great woman. And really, we're not behind each other. That's going to be another title. I'm going to share that one too. But we are also behind each other, because not everything, when you are a person, you don't know everything about me. You don't know everything about you. Well, about you do, but about people around you. So the gist of it is that behind each other, those who are prosperous and those who are whole, there are counterparts going on. The ones who are not here just yet, those are other types of frequency. Again, individuals who really, what it is they have insecurities that they could handle in an effective way for themselves, but by not mindfully living or loving, and by not choosing health, and so healthy self-regulation, they're consistently, when the ascension energy are coming about, not in the greatest of expansive modes. Okay, so behind a great woman comes a great man, or feminine, masculine. You can use those words. Why? Because as a feminine, I can tell you, masculines, they give us those inputs that we won't pick up on as feminines. For the masculine, the same thing goes. Now, for empowered feminine and masculine, they're always going to expand independently from if they meet a counterpart that is empowered or not. But when you have two greats, that's the part of where we have two differentiated selves, is what you're going to understand, humanly speaking. So it's called, I have my own thoughts and emotions, I have my own username, and I'm sharing it with you, and I don't need a mediator, I don't need a Terry Real, I don't need a Patrick Sheehan, because I have my own divine masculine, divine feminine. Okay, so you're an integrated brain, restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. And that again means that, you know, for example, for a committed person, there is no such thing as failure, just lessons to be learned on the way. Thank you, Sadhguru. Okay, and therefore that coherent state comes naturally. Dynamism and dynamic, because your integration is something that you're enjoying, and that tantric journey, there's not something that overwhelms you from the emotional, mental, or physical plane. So you're consistently with that delight in life and yourself. And that is thanks to each other, though, allowing passion. That's our counterparts that I'm talking about right now. Okay, so the focus is still counterparts, even though we each have our wholeness, which is really awesome, but we're sharing this, and this goes a long ways for those of us who are consciously looking to bring to our lovely planet that which it needs. And let me see if I can get you a little bit on that. So tending to our planet includes the perfect harmonizing of feminine and masculine, of body and mind, anchored in ventral energy, because this is where we have both 5D mystics and mindfully, spiritually living and loving people who know how to live in the perfect union that is your own embodiment of both, and then the perfect union in a physical plane with another, thanks to learning and or pursuing, again, healthy self-regulation in the absence of another. So that's a securely attached body, a non-traumatized person, because emotional charges don't stay charged and they don't get projected. And mental charges don't get the thoughts and feelings, you don't throw them. You have functional inner child adult conversations. So self-regulation means that even without you, I know how to be my authentic self. And then when I'm with you, I'm still being an authentic self. And I'm grounded and I'm embodying the harmonization of my heart, mind, body, and the whole self and spirit for those of us in the spiritual community. So with a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, and regulating lifestyle, that's the living in what is grace, heaven, eustress. You, like I, and you might not be here yet, but that's why mindfulness, mindset, and mindset practices help you. But our body and mind and our whole self is in wholeness, and our frequency is that of the 5D and beyond. Okay, so the eustress and the ventral energy and the enlightenment frequency is maintained by those who have a differentiated whole self. You're owning the sense of self. Use your human name. You have a ego self, but again, you're not using narratives. You have the consistent choice of mental, emotion, physical responsibility, reflection, and mastery with those daily applications in the physical plane and day-to-day of an inner growth mindset, mindfulness practices, and mindset skills. So while we walk together as empowered counterparts, alone and together, safely, we know that we still have unhealed, insecure, unsafe human beings who are instead playing out that which is their trauma. But with good therapists, that is all something they can work on if they choose. In the meantime, if they don't, it's not for us to impose on somebody to go and get their childhood looked at or whatever they would call it, because that's where there's a lot of different stories for every person. They'll know theirs, but if they're not interested in becoming whole in the way that the smart attachment trauma educators are sharing online anywhere, we're going to find them following, we know very well who. And that is not us. They're going to be following the ones who tell them not to go to the good therapist and that the good therapists are wrong. And they're going to keep on making up a bunch of stories about demons and Lucifer. And that's very sad, but it is something that we will understand might not really go anywhere. So we have collective of, at the very bare minimum, science and spirituality coming together and nobody's offended. And then we have the other ones who instead are continuing along those stories, which is why, again, it's time for humanity to know about the trickery of the mind with ego narratives and self. That's one of our topics, but it's thanks to the researchers and the scientists who have made possible and continue to make possible for me to learn about attachment trauma, neuroscience, neurobiology, and let you know, yeah, an integrated brain is a consciousness brain. A brain that is non-bilaterally integrated is not. We got an adaptive child with a bunch of orphans or whatever it is that's going on, and I get to meet Cusco. How's it going? How many facades do I get to deal with? Now, whether you have altars or not doesn't matter. Your attitude is going to tell me because you're small energy. As a person who does perceive the energetic spectrum of everybody, which is where the mystic comes into the mix. And actually, I'm going to read to you the mystical shaman because this card came through. Let me see it. Okay, so the mystical shaman, this is the symbol of the myth maker and storyteller who is neither made of nor defined by the story. So when you have an integrated brain and you have a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating life, like me, I didn't get lost with my clairs because they're not special. They're my human makeup, and sciences look into it. And their spiritual gifts and their psychic gifts and their intuitive. So the stories didn't make Maria feel like, oh, I'm so special. Thanks to me, you can get activated. No, that's actually very egoic. But I come with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, knowing I don't play God. And you're basically just as much a part of the cloth, independently from what you know or not, which is where the empowered feminine doesn't capture. The Cherokee proverb, I've read to you this one. Let me go grab it for a minute because that one actually is ideal for the episode as well. But whether you want to call it woman or feminine, the reality is I don't believe in any way, shape, or form in gender stereotypes. But what I can tell you is a true man, like a true masculine, is only once they're an empowered whole person who knows how to be themselves consistently, and then how to, make mistakes and say I'm sorry and actually do something about it, repenting truly for sins, but not with the ancient stories of let me, keep whipping you and think that Lucifer is out there. So there's a lot of stories that people use, and they don't actually get to the substance of you are whole, healthy, and smart, and embodying your true self when you have an integrated brain. And that's with all your child parts uncharged, the very bare minimum, and you know healthy self-regulation and your ventral energy. Until that day, you can come to me and talk to me, Maria, but I'm going to notice who you are, and I won't be telling it to you, because if I can't say something, I should say nothing, is what my mother taught me, and Ugly Duckling song. But really, it's also because I met enough Cuscos to know that, like my facade friend, they don't actually hear what's coming out of your mouth, because they're a Cusco who's talking over you with their assumptions and with their I judge a book by its cover, and with everything that comes from their childhood, which is not what I want to. I don't want to debate a 0-1-year-old that is attached, panicky, and a 3 to 7 who has shame and fear of abandonment. I don't want to debate that. There's nothing to debate. So I'll let the mask speak, and then I'm out of there, and there you go. But that's not a empowered masculine or a true masculine. Of the actual masculine is an empowered human being with the traits of what masculine can involve, and it's not locked up in one little space, which is why, let me again read this mystic shaman first, and then I'll get to the Cherokee proverb. The symbol of this mystical shaman is of the myth maker and storyteller, who is neither made of nor defined by the story. Instead, he observes it, evolves through it, perceives all aspects of it. A human being who can use bilateral, vertical, overall integration, has a whole self, is a verb, like Dr. Daniel Siegel will explain, so my 1-year-old and my child parts don't come into the mix, and my implicit, explicit biases and all that stuff of Maria's all to the side. That's why betrayal don't change you. When you meet cowards, they don't change you. They just let yourself know, oh, look, I met another Cusco, and today as a grown-up, I just know, oh, shit, they could go to therapy, but they don't want to, and they follow fancy assholes in suits and think that they know shit. Excuse me. You're confusing science and spirituality. No, I'm not. I actually am not, but again, I don't even go there, because as a teenager, I remember learning of the annoyance of, you have an ego like I do. Why are you saying you don't? And then of not understanding, why are you making such a big deal? You can't do that with, but why can't I do it again? Because you read the book? Is that it? If really, that's not a good enough answer to me. I mean, you don't own books and you don't own words. This is how a 3-year-old who's a grown-up, who basically, again, is like, you can't shame me because you say, you're stupid. Okay, sure. I mean, again, I don't understand what's all the upset about today. Again, adaptive child, not interesting. And whether they're men or women, a person who is empowered is not going to be using any of their time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to talk to facade. I'd rather get to know the facade, and then I make a friend, and I know who they are, and there you go. Because they're going to play out all of that stuff. So you don't get into drama because you don't engage with their child parts. And that's because you also don't walk on eggshells. You just learn, okay, these are the areas that are triggerable. These are the areas that are not. And then am I making a friend or not? And you go on with life, like my facade friend. Okay, instead of, again, we don't define by the story. Instead, he observes, evolves, perceives all aspects of it. In so doing, the mystical shaman represents the ability to dream a new story, a new myth into being. He dances between worlds, wearing the cloak of the world loosely around his shoulders, and sings the world into being. He reminds us to be in the world and to travel through it, but not be defined by it or become too attached to the experience. This is a symbol of true alchemy, for all elements of life have a spiritual aspect and a material one. When we remember this, all manner of miracles and manifestations are possible. Yes, and the mystical shaman invites you to live without attachment. So here's why people get lost with the spiritual, and we have all those spiritual egos and bypassers, because you are both spiritual and material. And to be able to embody what they're calling a new story or new myth, I'm not creating a story. When you're creating what is going to be, in my case, a way to share with you empowered masculine or empowered feminine, a human being will only be empowered when they embody their whole self. They have an integrated brain. They know how to self-regulate in their ventral energy. So I'm bringing to you an explanation of what I call the 5D collective, because of the frequency of love, which is where Jesus Christ consciousness for me come. But what I'm here for is be yourself, inspire human potential. Philosophy doesn't get anyone anywhere, and these stories are for the ones who stay in the stories of what I see out there for 4D, 3D. And let me again read. So we'll continue this conversation, but the grounded brain will know, haha, flat earthers, so cute. They could be using their brain differently, but they're a group who came together because they're insecure people who needed each other. That's it. I don't find it my fault when someone will say, it's because you integrate. No, it's not my fault. I actually don't think the earth is flat. I won't be, casting no stone either. It's just that we're going to be able to learn from each other. So you taking and having fun with life is what the 5D collective, and we don't think of flat earthers as a problem, because the reality is we want air, water, food. Our problem is that we want to keep on working with smart brains. So there's no problem. Actually, there's a lot of smart people out there. Then we keep working with the empowered ones. So behind every great woman, there's a great man. Behind every great man, there's a great woman. And here's our Cherokee proverb. A woman's highest calling is to lead man to his soul so as to unite him with source. And remember, the feminine is the body. And so when you have an empowered feminine, you got a healthy, self-soothing, self-regulating body. It means ventral energy, ventral vagal state, like right here, safe haven, secure base of myself. Okay, so that way we can equate all these things, and it's not set in stone. I'm pseudoscience woo lady, but I'm sharing here as a mystic mentor, content creator, podcast host, just so we're also clear about that. And there is her lowest calling to seduce, separating man from his soul and leaving him aimlessly to wander, which, definitely, I've seen that happen with men who allow themselves to be wielded, but they didn't want to take ownership of their life. They actively chose, I want somebody to tell me how to lead life because I cannot physically, emotionally, mentally find meaning of my own, which is where they are completely happy to be given 12-karat golden rings to anyone and everyone, and that's an actual truth, which doesn't make me say, wow, what a man, what a woman. It's more like, wow, really, that's a couple? Oh, they're so cute. No, they're not, but let me leave that one alone. So empowered feminine here, my empowered feminine quote unquote role to make you comfortable with feelings, because you're in your head about it and I'm not. I'm in my feelings, okay? But I don't get chaotic if I'm empowered. And then connecting to source, spirit, by being a person's like, ooh, I have feelings. I don't have a logical answer for you. I just have a gut instinct. And the empowered couples get to play it by ear, but they trust each other, which is why there's no separating anybody. The lowest calling, again, is to seduce. So think of fucking, drinking, drugging, all of that, which the individuals who have, unfortunately, trauma will do as they're really with self-loathing, gut wrench, and shame and blame, and that's unfortunate. So they are non-bilaterally integrated. Man, woman, fancy, and suit are a great example of this, and they will actively do things like this man when he gets on screen telling us women why we won't get a text back. In 1 minute short, why he won't text you back. 1 second after doing the deed of fucking you, he will feel contempt and disgust towards you. This man spells this out like this. And I'm like, wow. And then shame. And I'm waiting for, where does the shame go? Because now I don't know. Is it shame of me? Is it shame of him? Which shame is it? And there's no mention of therapy. Then there are people who live like that, men. Then we got the woman who says, what, women? Remember, if he fucks you, ladies, huh? And I'm waiting. I'm like, I don't know what she's going to say out of her fucking mouth. And wedding bells. And I'm like, no, my men told me I'm an object. I won't get wedding bells. Actually, at this point, I might even be considered one that's giving it easy. Who knows? So the reality is any empowered man, woman, or they will be, ha, 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 you're hilarious, people. And then, we don't pick the bear. We actually say it's a bigger deal than, this bear thing. Like, we really just want more men and women to be empowered. And theys, meaning get securely attached, become non-traumatized, allow yourself to have a whole self. Let's not have any more orphaned parts. How's that sound? And there, we're going to have heaven in the body people with two sides of the brain working. Then that's really going to be great, because now we got activated, spiritually awakened, whether they believe in or not. That's the point. You can't live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self if your solo self isn't owned by yourself, which is the very straightforward equation of, thank goodness I got attachment trauma educators, because I've been doing it my whole life. I just didn't realize that I was whole. Now I do know. Hey, Robert Spolsky, what's up? Determined, no free will. The first 3 years of your life. Yep, my 3-year-old, she's very happy. My favorite childhood memory, I'm 3. That's from my hypnotherapy session. That's why I'm breakable. And then I got Jesus and God and Holy Spirit. And that's actually why I also didn't get egoically lost. And I got clairs, so now I'm annoyed. No, I'm not. What are you talking? We're all brothers and sisters. That's not. No, but you know what I mean. Yeah, then no. Now I just know that I have to allow myself to leave it alone, because I got a distorted feminine in front of me who thinks that it's thanks to me that you're going to get your higher connect. No. Wow, ego. Seriously. How don't you spot it? So when people don't spot that they don't have a equanimous, humble, whole, and the self that says, yeah, I'm meaningful, but I'm also meaningless. What it means is if I and you are interacting, I'm not meaningful unless you make me meaningful for you. And guess what happens when there are people who don't want the ventral energy? Yeah, that one I found out. And see, that's why, again, you learn how not to take things personally when you're choosing to be loving and kind, because you can't prove kindness and you can't prove love and you can't prove your heart, and your heart doesn't break. And whenever anyone in general has made any kind of accusation, an empowered inner child, like Patrick Jehan will say, yeah, we don't give a shit. They can keep talking all day long. We're not the hypervigilant who is not an empowered inner child who needs Patrick Jehan. We are empowered inner children. So you can better bet a person who talks to me in a certain way, I already knew how to handle them as a 3-year-old because my mother taught me. And then I kept learning. So here's the man's highest calling, is to protect woman so she is free to walk the earth unharmed. Man's lowest calling is to ambush and force his way into the life of a woman, which is what the brain does, the left mode, when you got an inner critic, outer critic. When you got a demon in the head, a family in the head, as Dr. Daniel Fox will call it, and basically what is trauma. And what is an inner critic that if you don't tend to, where's Dr. Daniel Siegel? As he points out, it will not be something that goes away like that. It's once you become aware of the inner critic, now you give it space for itself to actually express. But it's healing it. You don't just randomly chit chat. You know, people who are online, they actually do that. But I leave it alone. So empowered feminines and masculines, empowered women and men and theys, we come together, and we do know that for many traumatized people, sitting still and noticing things is too overwhelming. Thank you, Bezel Vanderkolk. But we know that they can all learn healthy self-soothing and self-regulating by choosing to go and get their maladaptive patterns of behavior, drinking, drugging, fucking, and doing all that bullshit of gender stereotypes and whatever else they're doing, healed by going to Terry Real or Patrick Jehan and more, and just waiting. No, not waiting. It takes time. Once you get healed, you'll know. And that's why they feel changed, because then they finally have a whole self, and then they can come and join the land of the alive people, the 5D collective. So living and loving mindfully, spiritually, 5D mystics right here. And enlightenment soul age group, not all. Empowered feminine, empowered masculines. As I said, the masculine energetic imprint and the feminine, when empowered, they give each other balance. And also there's more to the story of why yesterday's news was different than the present day, but we'll save it for the week ahead. Thank you for stopping by, and like, share, and subscribe. It'll help the channel grow, and have a good one.